Hi there. I am Ashley. That's not working. Hello there. There we go. Hey there. I'm Ashley. This is this is our first live broadcast, and I'm doing terribly. So I don't have any viewers right now except for one, and I'm not expecting to get any. I'm just doing this to see what happens. So let's see what happens. Let me adjust some settings here. Let's adjust some settings here. Let me adjust some settings here. Okay, that works a lot better. Okay. So yeah, let's take a look at AP News. Just so you know, this show is a call-in show. All you have to do is look at for the Discord link below, call in, and we can talk about anything. That could be politics, religion, just current trends, conspiracy theories, whatever. The caveat is you have to tell us what it would take to change your mind, and or you can ask me. I can tell you what it would take to change my mind on a topic. Try to think of something, but for example, I am a democratic socialist. I vote left. I am pro LGBTQ, pro transitioning, and I am an atheist. So yeah, let's uh, let's see what's going on in the world of the world right now. Let's check AP News. All right, so bunch of Trump stuff. Not really interested in that. Looking for something a little different. Um, this hundreds trying to storm Wisconsin Beagle Research Facility met with rubber bullets and pepper spray. Let's look into that article. All right, so interesting picture. Blue Mounds, Wisconsin. According to the AP, about 1,000 animal welfare activists who tried to gain entry Saturday to a beagle breeding and research facility in Wisconsin were turned back by police who fired rubber bullets and pepper spray into the crowd. Oh gosh, sorry. Uh, Pepper spray into the crowd. Where was I? Yeah. And arrested the group's leader. It was the second attempt in as many months by protesters to take beagles from the Ridgeland Farms facility in Blue Mounds, a small town about 25 miles southwest of the capital of Madison. Again, this is in Wisconsin. Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett said in a video statement that 300 to 400 protesters were violently trying to break into the property and then assault officers. He said protesters have ignored designated areas for a peaceful protest and blocked roads to prevent emergency vehicles from entering. This is not a peaceful protest, Barrett said. The sheriff's department said a significant number of people were arrested out of about 1,000 protesters at the site, but did not give an exact total as they were still being processed as of the afternoon. Protesters tried to overcome barricades that included a manure-filled trench, hay bales, and a barbed wire fence. Some protesters did get through the fence, but were unable to enter the facility, where an estimated 2,000 beagles are kept, the Wisconsin State Journal reported. It looks like I have an error. Let's see. Let's see what's happening. So 1 second, but yeah, I'm not really that interested in I think the protest does seem peaceful. I mean, I guess they're trying to jump a barricade. Um, yeah, so I think they're trying to jump a barricade, which seems crazy. The assumption is that they're going to try to attack people. I don't really think they have like the basis of saying they're gonna attack. I guess you can. It doesn't seem violent per se, jumping over things or whatever. That's a lot of people. I don't know how many officers they had there, but they had enough to start arresting people. So it seems like they expected this to happen. Um, yeah, yeah. I guess as soon as they left the area for a peaceful protest, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on in that facility or what's happening. They could just be trying to free all animals from animal testing, which has some very negative side effects, and isn't really fair to the beagles. Beagles are cute. I like beagles. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess like this could be bad, but it could be worse. Let's check and see what's happening in world politics right now. Uh, Bulgarians head to the polls to elect a parliament for the eighth time in 5 years. Russian attacks kill at least two Ukraine as Ukraine strikes a Russian drone factory. Uh, or Iran stuff. What is this? Airline adding bunk beds for economy travelers, but bans snacks, smells, and cuddling. Okay, you're gonna ban cuddling. I assume banning cuddling is really about banning like sex. They don't want people having sex in there, which is fair. I don't want to be on an airline and dealing with people smashing. Um, Wellington, New Zealand. Sleep on a long haul flight in economy class has always been a fantasy for many travelers. Air New Zealand will soon offer a solution that involves climbing into a triple tier bunk bed wearing special socks. Sorry, I assume the socks are to try and stop people from slipping and falling depending on like what's happening. Also, that sounds terrifying. Planes are weird enough without two people stacked on top of me. The airline will soon open bookings for 4-hour stints in the Skynest sleep pods and says they will be the first lie flat beds for budget air travelers. Flyers will get cozy with their fellow passengers. However, so crumbs, strong perfumes, and bed sharing are forbidden. The curtained berths will be available to economy and premium economy flyers on the airline's new Boeing 787-9s Dreamliner aircraft from November. The planes will service the Auckland to New York route. That's more than 4 hours, I'm pretty sure, unless they have a New York there, which is one of the world's longest commercial flights and leaves economy passengers sitting upright for a marathon 16 to 18 hours. Yeah, okay, so they are going to New York City or New York State in the U.S. Instead, travelers will have the option of a pre-booked 4-hour spot in a curtained pod with costs starting from $495 New Zealand dollars, $291 on top of the price of their economy tickets. But use of the 6 pods arranged in a triple bunk style layout between cabins will put flyers in close proximity to others, prompting the airline to publish etiquette rules. I understand the etiquette rules. I think the bunk bed thing is freaky. I don't like it. Yeah, I guess having as many rules as possible, but I guess being able to lay down is nice. Not for people who are afraid of flying. So I'm curious how the airline is going to look. Like, are there seats or do I have to lay down the whole time? Because I'm not really particularly a fan of that. And if you've ever slept in any of those pods in like a hostel or something, they're not spacious for you to really sit up. So yeah. Passengers must refrain from snacking in the pods, which can't be used by children or any additional visitors. That means solo snoozes only, please. No musical nest or tag teaming, Air New Zealand's website says. For those worried about cleanliness, the airline assures travelers that the pillows, blankets, and sheets supplied are all refreshed between 4-hour naps. Flyers are also required to change into specially provided socks to enter the pod, fasten their seatbelts over their blankets, and forgo dousing themselves in any smelly perfumes or potions. Passengers will be woken by a gentle change in lighting at the end of their 4-hour stint in the bunk, or by a flight attendant, possibly less gently if they don't rouse in time. Okay, so it's only 4 hours in the pods per person, I guess. But again, I'm curious how many pods they have. Each berth is about the length of a regular bed, 80 inches or 203 centimeters, but the pods don't leave headroom for sitting up, and access requires bending, kneeling, crawling, or climbing into the space, the aircraft's website says. The bunks are 25 inches wide at shoulder height, tapering to 16 inches at the foot of the beds. Seats or couches that convert into beds in the sky aren't a new offering for business and first class travelers, but Air New Zealand believes that its lie flat bunks for economy travelers will be the world's first. The offering from New Zealand's national carrier is the latest from airlines seeking to sell seat upgrades and other add ons to economy travelers. Air New Zealand first announced the economy beds were in development in 2020. The airline has increased fares and cut some domestic flights from its schedule in response to increased jet fuel costs during the war in the Middle East. In March, it suspended its earnings outlook due to fuel price volatility and warned that more changes to its routes were possible. But on one of its longest flights, travelers might finally get some shut-eye, although they should expect snoring, for which earplugs are provided, the airline said. Statistically, someone's going to do it. It might be you. Yeah, I for one am all for the bunk beds in all kinds of places that are crappy seats, dibs on top bunk. All I see is a lawsuit over a flight attendant beating a passenger up that isn't waking up. Yes, because no one has ever fallen asleep on a flight before. I don't snore anyway. I wouldn't want to share a berth with a bunch of slobs I don't know. Yeah, I don't, that was not economy in any sense of the word. Oh, talking about this. Yeah, I'm all for airlines adding better services. I think, especially for those traveling in cheaper seats, but yeah, let's check fact check. Gonna log off soon because I don't have any viewers and I'm just hanging out testing. God, it's a lot of Trump fact checkings. I'd really like less Trump fact checking, I guess. But I did see one up top that looked interesting. Drug trafficking by sea is down 98.2%. The numbers don't show that. So, some pictures. Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that the flow of drugs into the U.S. by sea has been nearly eradicated under his administration. He echoed the sentiment in a Truth Social post this week, writing that 98.2% of drugs smuggled in via such routes have stopped, quote unquote stopped. Asked for the source of Trump's statistic, the White House directed the Associated Press to Customs and Border Protection data on drug seizures. But experts say Trump is misrepresenting the CBP data and that the real number can't be known because it is impossible to determine how many drugs are not intercepted. Here's a closer look at the facts. Trump, 98.2% of drugs coming into the U.S. by ocean or sea have stopped. The facts, this is a misrepresentation of government data. Drug seizures made in the coastal interior region, which includes open and coastal waters, were 98.2% lower in November 2025 than they were in July of 2025. However, this is not a measure of all trafficked drugs, and it is only a snapshot of 2 specific months, not an overall trend. It is impossible to know the quantity of drugs that enter the country undetected. Drug seizure data measure interdiction activity, not actual trafficking volume. As drug policy researchers have noted, no one knows how much goes uncaught, and changes in seizure data are insufficient to make definitive claims about policy outcomes. Yeah, I remember watching Narcos, and one of the things that they talked about smuggling into Miami back then, I was like, okay, if they caught one, they had like 10 more that got in. It's just like, way too many getting in to even count that. And I would be curious to be like, oh, well, what countries are they not keeping an eye out looking for that are bringing in drugs? And I think a lot of drugs get smuggled like at border points anyway. It's not, I mean, you have a 98% increase in but you're like blowing people up. So I'd rather have a lower number than people being blown up, I guess. That could just be me. Interdiction activity refers to the prevention of illicit drugs from reaching their destination. In July 2025, CBP seized 223,923 pounds of cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, marijuana, and methamphetamines in open water or near coasts. That number fell to 4,463 pounds in November 2025, a difference of 98.2%. So they seized less drugs, actually, not more drugs. That's just a huge misrepresentation of the data. You're just catching less, which it could be like, yeah, they're shipping it that way less, but it also could just mean you're not catching it. Part of that might be you're blowing up boats instead of recovering the drugs. So shifts in the amount of seized drugs can reflect changes in trafficking routes, enforcement strategy, agency jurisdiction, drug supply and demand, or a mixture of these factors, according to Bergen-Seco. Drug seizures continued to fall in December 2025, with interceptions totaling 2,268 pounds. They began rising again at the start of 2026. The latest available data for March shows that 28,500 pounds were seized that month. So that is kind of typical for this administration to like cherry pick some of the data and information, because that's not what this is showing. That's not what's happening. But none of this reflects the total amount of drugs being trafficked, only the ones seized. What is unknown is the proportion of drugs that are intercepted or how the number of drugs that are not intercepted has changed. Jonathan Calkins, a professor of operations research and public policy at Carnegie Mellon University, who studies drug policy, said the ignorance of what are the correct figures for either of these important concepts gives rise to incoherence and misinterpretation. In his Truth Social post on Monday, Trump also warned that the U.S. would hit Iran's fast attack ships if they came anywhere close to vessels blockading Iranian shipping outside the Strait of Hormuz. Trump, I don't know what this has to do with this drug seizures thing. Trump and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, said Friday that the strait is fully open again, though Trump added that the blockade will continue until Iran reaches a deal with the U.S. to end the war. Abbas said the strait will remain open for the remaining period of a 10-day truce between Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group, which I think that's been resolved. Since September, the Trump administration has conducted a campaign of strikes on vessels it says are trafficking drugs in Latin American waters. At least 51 vessels have been attacked and 178 people were killed. With the latest reported strike on Wednesday in the Eastern Pacific, additional strikes occurred on Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. Cocaine is the most commonly seized. Blah, blah, blah. There's a 79% drop in cocaine seizures from August. Yeah, a decline she described as driven primarily by the Trump administration's boat strikes. That could be true, but it could also not be. But again, this measures interdiction activity, not total trafficking volume, and it also only reflects the operations one. Yeah, this is going to be something we cover in the regular show, the weekly News Desk Now show with Ashley. So check that out. Okay, well, I think this was a good enough test, so I am going to be signing off now, and thank you.